the more meaningful discussions you'll have is not what property I should buy. It's, do I have a strategy? Do I know where I'm headed? I've got a mate, Ben, who earns really good income. And he said to me, Bryce, I just want to buy an investment property. I'm like, all right. So I had a chat. We did a little Zoom like you and I are doing now. And he started asking me, should I buy it in my name? Or if I sell it, my wife's name is, she's not earning as much as me at the moment. Therefore, if we sell it, less capital gain. And it was just this random jumble of thoughts, which is fine. I'm not prejudging, but what I'm saying is, and this is a term that you've been using a lot lately, so I'm going to pinch it. But if you don't have a North Star, you don't know where you're heading. Well, sure, some of those, like, it could make sense that you put it in your wife's name if you're going to sell it in 3 years. So I said to him, look, I need to know where you're headed. Are you going to stay living in Australia? Yes, I am. Great. Therefore, we want to consider holding these assets long term. So let's remove from the discussion whether or not you're going to sell it. Because if you're going to stay in Australia and you want to set up a passive income for life, probably the discussion around selling is not something we're going to do. We might pass this on to your heirs. Okay, that was good information. So all of these conversations we're around are having a strategy. I said, where are we going? Where are we headed? Because then as soon as we do have that North Star, then it's pretty clear what we do from there. So just because the market is hot doesn't ever change the fact that we need to understand where we're headed first.
If you're buying for owner-occupied purposes and you want to get some capital growth and make it an investment, then what we're saying rings true. Buyer's decision quadrant is a big part of that story. If you're buying for owner-occupied purposes and it's a pure lifestyle decision, you may decide to buy in a new estate where there's lots of vacant land and you don't really care, right? But that's a conversation you want to have. Once you know that from an owner-occupier's point of view, that is going to help you make a more informed decision, because as what was happening with your doctor mate there, Bryce, things spinning in his head, I don't know. So until you start to, okay, that's a lock in terms of that goal's a lock, that goal's a lock, the answers become really clear. And I cannot stress this enough. The moment you articulate your goals and you prioritize those, the light becomes clearer, the passageway becomes clearer in terms of what we need to do to execute on that plan. So sit down and work out what those plans are. Now, from an investment point of view, coming back to our point before, cash flow management, borrowings, having defense, because we can see, pandemics can happen, right? We didn't know they can happen, but they can happen. So, and then it's asset selection. So
importantly, a strategy is defense, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's totally, it's a plan, right? And that's what you're trying to do. So have an understanding of, the steps that you're going to be taking to be moving forward. And I think that really is what most, aspiring Australians do. They are forward thinking. Their behaviors are relating to that forward outcome. And so that is going to be a big part of you planning to become what you plan to become as part of that story. So I know sort of say, wait a minute, how does that help me in buying in a competitive market? Well, it just means you don't empty your pockets and just buy anything, or you get emotional to or you don't do the fundamental research that you need to do. We don't want this to be a shortcut. One of the things that most people fail in life to do is when the cognitive load gets heavy, they tend to either push it down the track, and that's why a lot of people don't retire financially free, because they want things that are easy. They want to make easy decisions in their life. The ones who put a bit of cognitive effort in or outsource that cognitive effort to professionals are the ones who usually get to that financial peace and that financial freedom, because they've done it sensibly and they haven't burnt cash or made mistakes along the way.
Folks, I understand we're being a bit of a fun police, but this stuff's important. So again, we use my mate's analogy. What happens is that they build a plan based on that North Star, and then what comes out of that strategy is very clear. You should buy a property for this amount of money. Let's call it 600. Let's call it 800, whatever the number is, right? The reason we want you to buy it at that price point is because we've taken into account where you want to end up, and we've taken into account all of the things that are happening in your life, meaningful things that are happening in your life between now and you reaching your goal. So if you were to spend any more than that, it probably would put pressure on your cash flow. If you could spend any less than that, the compounding growth impact means you probably won't hit your goal. So it gives a price point It also gives a yield point, so that, because obviously we need to know how to cash flow this. For a lot of people, it's negative yield in the early part of the accumulation phase. So we've got a price point, we've got a yield, and we've got a growth figure, Ben. So therefore, you don't end up comparing with your neighbor or your friend who's buying. I'm buying one for $1.2 million. Well, I don't give a rip because I only need one for 700 or I only need one for 600. So it gives you clarity and peace of mind around how you play the game in this very hot market, because you're very, very clear on the parameters at the outset.